Welcome to Waffles Friends Work, a values-driven leadership and personal development podcast. I'm Kara.
And I'm Jency. We hope you find this podcast both thought-provoking and entertaining as we cover how we all show up for ourselves, in our relationships, and at work.
Since we're only moderately obsessed with shows like Parks and Recreation and Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
And can't stop reading material from Brene Brown and Adam Grant,
you'll get a mix of approaches to thinking about and becoming the person you want to be.
yeah, that's enough. Let's do it. Welcome, everybody, to the Waffles Friends Work podcast. We are here today to talk about something that has come up quite a bit since we started talking specifically about boundaries, but also just in life in general, which is how tied up we get into the outcome of something, whether it's a project at work or something that a friend is going through. Some human instinct in us is to get wrapped up in how that turns out. And this can bring a lot of heartache. I mean, there are times where it brings joy when the outcome is good, but a lot of times it just ends up piling up a lot of stress that we don't need because we're overly committed to an outcome that we actually have no control over.
Sometimes it's really good outcome. Sometimes it's really not. Either way, it's stressful.
Yes. And sometimes it's eustress, right? The good stress, because you're excited about something that you're building or whatever. Yeah, great. But I would say that's probably 20% of the time, maybe. Maybe
Well,
less.
and I guess that's what we want to get into today is how do we separate that? How do we know what's worth investing that stress into? Because sometimes it is worth it. And sometimes the outcomes are something we value or something that directly impacts us or something we actually do have the control to influence, impact, however it actually shakes out. But so many times we get so invested in these things that we actually don't have control over the outcomes. And then we just are sad and bummed and annoyed and frustrated, angry when things don't go the way that we wanted them to go.
Yeah, and I realize that this is one of my personality traits. I'm not going to put a value on it, but I just always think I'm right. And so when people don't do what I think they should do, see our last rant, and then things don't turn out, it can be really infuriating. And it's not just that end piece, right? Where you have all these emotions about how it did or didn't turn out. It's that stress and emotional burden leading up to whatever it is. So you're working on a work project for 6 months, you're stressing out so much, you're putting in all this time and energy. Your family hates your guts because you are so grouchy, because you are putting everything into this thing, and then the thing, I don't know, in my experience, usually the plug just gets pulled and nothing happens. So I've done all this work and then nothing happens. And
That
then
has
you're
never happened to me.
and then you're really upset. But it's that lead up piece. And so that's what we want to talk about, or why we want to talk about this, and eliminating all of that stress and figuring out where your energy should be going. And then spend some time talking about tactics on how you actually do that, because you can read a lot of Stoicism or Buddhist tracts or whatever that's talking about suffering and separating yourself from the outcome, and it's just yeah, but how do I do
But
that?
how do I do that? Cool tip. What does that mean?
But what do you mean?
So this is a new thing I'm learning. And part of why something like this is hard for me is because I do care and I want to do things well. I want things to work. I agree that I am usually right about things. And if everyone would just do them my way, it's probably going to go better than whatever they came up with. Is definitely not as good as what I came up with.
Every time.
But I invest a lot of my time and energy, and then it gets punted to next quarter, or the rug gets pulled out entirely or something like that. And I have found that honestly, that's my number one recipe for burnout, is working on something that I really care about a whole lot, and then it goes nowhere, or it doesn't turn out the way I wanted it to, or it wasn't actually what my boss or their boss's boss actually cared about or wanted, or there was a miscommunication about what was wanted, or I don't know, but nothing pulls me out of actual engagement faster than here's this thing you cared about and nothing's gonna happen. You did all this work and it felt like it was for nothing.
Same. I mean, if you want me to disengage really quickly, give me a project
that goes
nowhere. And I will say that after 3 years at my last company, when I was leaving and I was trying to make a list of the things that I did accomplish, it was very short, the things that actually got done. And it was incredibly demoralizing to leave that place thinking, wow, I did nothing.
What did I even do? That's how I feel at end of the performance reviews at the end of the year. I'm like, I swear I worked. I know I worked hard.
Well, and it's hard. It's
What even
hard too
happened?
because, well, this is a different conversation entirely. But when you get an assignment, well, what does done look like? So I can actually check this off my list. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway. All right. So we wanted to talk about this in the Waffles Friends workflow, but mainly talking on the Waffle side about how the benefits of letting some things go and what that means for you personally. And I think we've covered that quite a bit. I mean, it really is about energy management and being careful about where you're spending your time and energy. As we've talked about in all of our values conversations and our boundaries conversations, staying in alignment and what's true to you and putting your effort and energy into the things that actually matter is what is going to not only conserve your energy, but give you an energy boost. Whereas a lot of the time, these projects that don't really matter, that aren't in alignment of your values, you're just maybe getting paid to do them. We can care. I'm not saying you don't care, but there's this disconnect between connecting your worth to how that turns out and being someone who's like, well, I have value, my work is valuable, whether or not this thing happens.
Yeah, and that's the nail on the head for me, and the balance that I've been trying to find is I can't not care. If I don't care, I can't do it. I don't know if it's
Right,
the
right.
ADHD or the inability to BS. I just like, if I don't care about it, I'm not going to do it. So I can't just turn off the care machine. But what I can do is manage my own expectations of how things are going to turn out. I can redefine what success looks like for me and praising the effort and the work that I do without it being contingent on what the end result actually ended up being. I have a couple of things like that from my last job that like I got laid off before I got to see any of it really come to life, and some of it didn't come to life, but I still have pieces of it that I'm really, really proud of, and I still hold as the experience that I had building that or the ability that I have now to put it into practice. Like I still really care about those projects and what they ended up serving for me personally rather than what they did for the organization and how valuable I was, and trying to find where that line is of this mattered because it mattered to me, not because of the value, the perceived value it had for somebody else.
Great. That's a really good, smart, healthy way to look at it instead of just being grumpy, which is usually how I look at it.
I'm not perfect at it. I still get really mad when people just don't do it the way that I wanted them to, but
Well, I
there's
think maybe
some control and perfectionism there that I'm dismantling as well, not just tying my value to the
think
work I do.
we're all working on that sort of external validation piece. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think right now might be a good time to talk about the circle of control. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this before.
Maybe we have. It's one of my favorites. So, yeah, the circle of control, if you do a quick little Google search, you'll see it's either 2 or 3 rings, depending on which model you use. But it's essentially I want to say it's a Venn diagram, but it's a circle because all these things kind of overlap each other. But the smallest circle in the middle is the circle of control, and then you go a little bigger, the circle of influence, and then the biggest is circle of concern. And what this means is there are a lot of things that you're concerned about, and some of those things you can influence, and then some of those things you actually have control over what the outcomes are. So an example of this that I use, concern, the weather. We are concerned about the weather because it impacts my ability to play pickleball on Sunday, and I'm really worried that it's just going to thunder and rain. There's nothing I can do about that. So that lives solely in the circle of concern. Influence, maybe it rains. I can influence maybe, well, I was going to say I could vote for legislation that actually cares about global warming and
Well, I was thinking, well, you could make a reservation for an indoor court.
indoor court, but that's control, right? That's
Oh,
actually
right.
something I can control. But that leads me to the next thing is I could control what I wear. Okay, it's gonna be a little colder. I'll put pants on. It's gonna be really cold. We'll go inside. Things like that. That's the actual levers that you actually can pull. Influence is maybe a conversation you can have with someone that has control over the situation, or influence is where I feel like I sit with my kids. Like I can tell them to do things and I can try, but ultimately It's out of my control. It's up to them to actually do it. But just having this mental model of there are a lot of things that I am worried about and recognizing, okay, is this something I can influence or something I have control over? And what can I actually get to when I start getting really anxious about all the things in my circle of concern, scaling into, okay, well, let's find the thing that I can control and let's do that thing. This is the stuff that you actually can do and the things you should invest your energy in because you can actually pull the levers on that one.
Yeah, and maybe that helps categorize your actions as well, because as you were talking about concern and influence, I think a lot about modern day politics and what are the things that I'm concerned about? Everything. What are the things that I can influence? Well, I can vote, I can
Donate, I
donate,
can
do
canvas, I
this.
can, yeah.
Yep, yep. What can I control? Probably the biggest one is like media consumption, right?
Yeah, and that tells you where to
Dooms
draw the boundary, right?
like don't doom scroll. That just makes it worse because then your circle of concern just gets
Keeps getting
bigger.
bigger.
Shoot.
Yeah, and that's not to
Boy.
say we don't want to be informed, but let's be
Yeah, but keep it
careful
in
about how we are.
context. Yeah, about what you can and can't control and how much
Getting
energy
your
you're
news from
spending on those
social
things
media is never going to be the right answer because it's always going to be the worst of the worst.
every time. Well, you mentioned your kids, which I think is a good segue into this sort of friends section of thinking about things that you can control or influence and separating yourself from the outcomes. I think kids are a really good example of that. I think your spouse or partner is also a good example of that. We're in a lot of relationships where we can give advice, we can weigh in, we can have a full opinion on what we think somebody should do with their life. But ultimately, they choose what we're doing here. And so I think sometimes, especially, I don't know, I've noticed this as my kids get older and the more sort of independence they have, especially the one who's an actual adult on paper,
Ooh, on paper.
that I can have all the opinions I want. But if I'm tied to a specific outcome of what I think he should do, I'm going to be really frustrated and then resentful of him for all these things that are silly, but we do it.
We do, and I think the kids one is layered because there is a little bit of pressure to I don't believe this, but I have had to work to deconstruct this, that your children are a reflection of you. And there are still times where I'll be out in public when the kid's throwing a tantrum and I'm like, people are judging me. It's like, maybe they are, but I don't, like, that's their own business. But like, I don't think my kids are a reflection of me, but sometimes I'm still like, people are watching, people are like,
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
what's the line from Bend It Like Beckham? All I know is that kids are a reflection of their parents. It's like, woof. That's so much pressure to put on ourselves because our kids are total complete humans all on their own. But I think that extends to other relationships too. And even just, I mean, it goes back to us thinking that we're right about things and thinking that the small context we have of their lives is enough to give them advice that actually matters. They're like, I remember, I remember in high school, I had this really good friend who would always come to me and be like, I don't know what to do about this boy. And I was always like, break up with him or stop having sex with him. There's some stuff there. And it was so easy for me to emotionally detach myself from that because I wasn't into this dude. I didn't care. It's just a dude. And I remember one time, my friend's little sister called me and was like, hey, Kara, my sister keeps telling me that she wishes she had taken your advice about a couple of things. And so if you could tell me what you think I should do about this boy, that would be really great.
That's
But
really
the point
funny.
is, they never listened. They always just did the thing anyway, whatever it was. And I remember just being like, I just get so mad and so personally offended that they just didn't do the thing I said when there's so much more to it than just my little piece of the puzzle of like, obviously break up with him. Like, obviously dump him. It's so obvious to me.
Yeah, we see this like pervasive on social media, right? Like you see one person's post about one thing and they get all this like criticism or advice or like whatever from all these people who have a weird parasocial relationship with them because they've never met them. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you don't know. You don't know. Just be quiet.
I feel like the answer still usually is you should break up with him. But yes, you're right. Yeah. It's not my business.
Well, I have learned a lot about this particular issue, especially as I'm thinking about like when I was in my early 20s and with friends or with my younger siblings, which I always had a lot to say about their lives and their stupid decisions.
Oh,
But
yeah. I didn't have a
yeah,
lot of say in my younger siblings' life because I only had the one, and you had a whole plethora to choose from.
I had a lot of opinions and they were loud opinions. And I think part of that maturation is not only letting go of the outcome, but just respecting them as their own humans and their ability to make decisions and loving them anyway. I think when you are tied to the outcomes of their decisions, then that resentment grows and you can't be close because you feel like you know better, you're da-da-da, whatever you think, you're tied so much to these outcomes that they don't impact you. Some of them do.
Some of them do, but not. That's really interesting because that's something I think about a lot is loving the person, not, I don't know, them as a whole person. They are a whole person who does things. And so you love the person, not necessarily the things they do. And of course there's 100 caveats on that. How many times do they do this thing and when that's time to draw those boundaries? But yeah, I think interesting about like, your resentment builds when you're more invested in the outcomes of the things, especially than they are. Oh, like that episode of Parks and Rec. I always have one.
Here he goes.
I always have one. But the episode where it's the snake juice one again. It's the episode where Leslie gets Anne that interview to be the director of public health or whatever for the city. And Anne just doesn't really care about the interview. But Leslie's like, we're going to stay up all night studying. I got you all these materials. And then Anne shows up at the bar and gets wasted. And Leslie is so angry about it because she's like, I stuck my neck out for you. And she's like, I didn't ask you to. And you just see that frustration and resentment from Leslie of like, why don't you care about this thing as much as I do? And Anne's like, why do you care so much about this thing that is my life and impacts my... It's a great episode.
Yeah, that's a good example. And also the resentment comes back around too when they come back and they made the choice or they did the thing and it blew up just like you thought it would. And then you have this smug, I told you so. And you're just driving this wedge in that relationship. So
Leslie's like, because you always order white wine and it gives you a headache. And then Anne's like, but it's my headache. It's like, let her make the choice and let her have the experience and the consequences. And if she fails and she fails big, if you're friend, you're going to go pick her up and be like,
well,
let's go get in the hot tub. And you can tell me all about how that really, really sucked.
And how I was right. Just a little.
And how I was, I mean, depends. Yep.
That's funny. Yeah, and that's also a good segue into our next one.
And now they're working together. So here we are at work.
Here we are at work. Well, I was thinking about how can I care about this thing more than you do? And that has happened to me at work many times where I am putting in all this effort into someone else's business. This has happened to me so many times. You can go see it on my Substack because I've talked about it. Whereas, why am I more invested and tied to the outcomes of this business that I don't own or get any of the profits of than the actual owner? What am I doing? And as soon as I realized that, oof.
Big change. It's interesting because you and I are both, we are what Adam Grant would call pro-socially motivated. And so we want to contribute to the greater good, right? And so whatever organization it is that we are part of, we want to improve it. We want it to be better, whether that's the volunteer board that we sit on or the actual job that we work at or the family, whatever it is, we want to contribute to something that's bigger. And so there's definitely some energy we get from improving the thing. And I have learned climbing the corporate ladder myself that I get farthest when I care most about the thing the person at top cares about. And the thing the person at the top cares most about is rarely the thing that I care most about. And so it's like, okay, what am I going to spend time on? And you got to think about where you sit in the org and your goals and your career goals and whatever. It's like the day that I decided to flip the switch and stop trying to play the game and climb the ladder and care most about what the CEO or chief whatever officer cares about and build the things I wanted to build and build my own personal resume and my own portfolio and all of those things. I cared a lot more about work and I was more engaged and I was having a lot more fun. Now there is a balance there. If you're going off the deep end, you're totally doing something else. They're going to performance manage you and they're going to, so you got to walk the line. You got to play the game a little bit. But I was realizing that I was investing so much in what I thought the people wanted that I was losing myself in the identity of I've just got to be whatever the CEO's number one focus is. That's what I need to care the most about. And even when I was trying to play that game, it still was a mismatch because the CEO changed their mind every day. It's like 1 week, my one CEO was having me plan an executive retreat. And then the next week it was like, who are you? I don't even know your name. I couldn't win trying to play that game either.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've all been victims of the fickle manager person, whoever's making decisions, like it It's happened to me many times where it's like one day they're just dead set. We need a new whatever system.
This is the most important thing that has
thing.
ever happened in the history of our organization. We have to prioritize it before we can do anything else.
So you spend 6 weeks working and doing research and making a recommendation, and then you come and you present it to them, and they're like, "What are you? Is this what you've been working on? I don't even care about that anymore." They were over it the next week, but that's a different
so
conversation.
that is a different conversation, but I could talk on it for a while. But I do think that is possibly one tactic to take away from this of like, how do you actually detach yourself from the outcomes? And I think taking a beat in a minute like that and identifying, is this an ooh shiny? Is this actually a strategic pillar imperative initiative? Or is it a passion project? Is it something that they just were at an event last week, thought it was cool? Like,
AI,
what?
do it with AI.
Yeah. I have a lot of examples.
So many. I have a career built out of examples, especially because of the types of jobs that I had. You talk about being in an org and wanting to make it better. My job was to make the org better. That's why
Yeah.
I was hired. And so, of course, I wanted to be better. There are so many different paths and ways to get there, and a lot of different opinions on how and what to make it better, which looking back, that probably should have been the conversation we were having. But anyway, it's over now.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. So bringing the circle of control back to like your work life, there is a lot that concerns you. There's so much that happens that concerns you. There are a lot of decisions that get made that you have no say in, no control over, no even influence in really. Like, sure, you can fill out the employee engagement survey and try to give the feedback where you can, but ultimately the people making the decisions are making the decisions and you're just there. And so recognizing where you fall and where in the circle of control you actually are, and what your role actually is and what your job actually is an important way to see where you should be investing your energy. So something Jency and I talk about sometimes is go back to your job description. Take a look at your job description and see, okay, yep, a lot of these things are concerning me, but according to my job description, that's not my problem to solve. And I need to let that one go.
Kara's just dropping bangers. She's like, it's not that big a deal. But this is a big one. And again, we're like trying to make these tactical, but then this thing, it is a lot harder to practice than it is to actually do the thing, especially for folks who give a shit. Like it is hard, and it is really, really hard. But
Folks who give a shit and are really, really smart and really, really capable and could fix that problem. Just give it to me. I will fix it.
We definitely could do it. We talked about that a lot actually in the work boundaries episode.
Yep.
And again, that's tying to outcomes, and that's tying your worth to outcomes, right? If I do this, if I fix this problem, that makes me feel like I am more worthy or that I've earned my spot at this job. And it can feel icky at first to be like, well, that's not my problem. You do not have to say it like that. You don't have to be a brat about it. Sometimes I am, but that's okay. But to just be really clear, and we can give you some like corporate speak about, this doesn't seem to be in alignment with my other priorities. Da, 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 da. Where does this fit? Asking questions like that.
Oh, I'm real good at corporate jargon. I will be the corporate jargon translator for you. Just hit me up. Give me anything. I do it at home sometime. And Nate says, "Hey, Kara, you could put corporate Kara. You could leave her at work. Corporate Kara doesn't need to be part of this right now." Like, we're gonna circle back. Okay, thanks, corporate Kara.
When you tell your husband you're going to circle back about that.
Like, I think we just need to get in alignment about our plans this weekend. We seem to be out of sync right now, so if we could just sync up.
Let's schedule it one-on-one.
We're gonna put a pin in this and we'll circle back.
But I do think like that zoom out, right? Like, where does this fit? What do I have control over? What about this is actually going to come? For me, it's always, where is my ass on the line?
Yeah.
What are they going to hold me accountable for? And if it's all this extra stuff that nobody asked for, but I just saw it and thought I needed to do it, and then nobody cared, it's like, okay, well, maybe start with, where is my ass on the line? What am I being held accountable for? And then scoop in other things as you can or as makes sense, but really to get clear about what is your responsibility. Yeah, and what your responsibility is, and what the expectations are for you in that project. Ask whatever.
Yeah, a little thing that kind of helped me flip my mindset about that too was to kind of give your job description as your contract. If you're a contractor or a consultant or a vendor or something, your job description is what you're being paid to do. So when someone comes in and says, "Hey, will you do this other thing?" It's not necessarily rude or whatever to be like, "That's not a priority for me right now." This is the contract. I have been contractually obligated to complete these things. Now, your job description might be outdated or blah, blah, blah. That's a totally different conversation, but it's a good tool to come back to your boss and be like, "Oh, these are the things I'm being paid to do. These are the other things that you've had me chase. Can we reconcile what's happening here?"
Yep. Asking questions, getting curious, and really taking that zoom out and looking at what is actually going to matter here.
Well, I've got one more little tactic, and it's not quite as tactical as I'd like it to be, but it is just another little brain shift that you can take. Is something that's really helped me is to consider everything an experiment and to treat myself as a scientist or an anthropologist that's collecting data. And when I send something out into the world, how it's received, the feedback I get, whether or not the CEO actually cared about it today, like all of those things, that's just information for me to put toward my next experiment. So there's like your little baby that you cared a whole lot about and you put it out into the world and now you're just observing. Okay, now what happens? And it's not a reflection of you and who you are and your worth as a person. It's just data.
Just information. I think you can say that about most things in life.
That's the like mantra, mask, shield, filter, whatever that I look through when I'm going to my performance reviews, when I need to solicit feedback, anything like that. It's just
information.
Information. It's data. It's helpful. And the feelings and reactions that I have to it, also data, also information, also it's all
and it's all subjective to the person giving it. Really, they have a whole different context and outlook on everything than you do. So it's, important to take that as a grain of salt because they have different priorities. Again, they are tied to your outcomes. Maybe they haven't done any work and they're like, well, Kara didn't do these things and that reflects poorly on me. And Kara was like, well, you didn't prioritize those things with me. So of course they didn't get done. I did all these other things. And yeah, there's a lot of people's baggage going on in the world.
Yep, there's the other tactic. Go to therapy and then convince all the people that you work with to also go to therapy.
It is not easy to do that. I will just say I've tried for many years, and unfortunately...
That's an influence. That's a circle of influence, not a circle of control.
Everybody just go therapy. The tactical thing that I do or that I use in my life everywhere and not just at work is, and there's lots of different time delineations that people use this rule, but I'm a 5-day, 5-month, 5-year person. Like, is this thing going to matter in 5 days? Is it going to matter in 5 months? Is it going to matter in 5 years? And when it comes to work projects, if you apply that filter, the thing that's going to matter in 5 months or so is probably your end of the year performance review. So when the pen to paper, when it comes down, what do you need to report on? What do you need to talk about that's going to be, in that review? We actually have a blog post on our website about getting ready for performance reviews.
We do. That's really interesting. That might be a good way to separate what's an ooh shiny and what's a strategic thing. Is like, maybe this is a tactic as a leader that I could use, is like, there's something on my mind. I'm going to schedule a meeting about it a week from now. Instead of tomorrow or instead of immediately, I'll do it next week or the week after and then evaluate. Oh, is this still a hot priority? No? Okay, then we didn't need to schedule it and just cancel it.
Best thing in the world is a canceled meeting.
Just an idea. Yeah. There's one.
And I use that screening with my kids too, because especially my high schooler, things get really heavy and he gets really stressed out because everyone around him is freaking out about the future and applying to college and all the things that are going on. And
yeah,
we do this thing together where I'm like, well, is that going to matter in 5 months? And usually for him, the answer is no.
No, especially for him. In 5 months, he's going to have a totally different life when he graduates from high school.
Yep. So that's one that I like to use just because it does help put things in perspective about how much energy are you putting into this thing. And when you back out and you go, well, I'm putting energy into this thing. It's my relationship with my kids. Of course, that's going to matter in 5 years. So.
That's a good one. Especially because, I don't know what you guys all do, but I don't think anyone should stay at one job for much more than 5 years. Maybe if you're moving up or something, I don't know, but that's a good one. Because in 5 years, am I even going to be at this job anymore? Do I even care?
Right? And again, I mean, I know we have said this a million times, and I don't want to be flippant about it, because I don't, this isn't about not caring. It's not
Yeah.
about doing shitty work. It's not about trying to get out of your responsibilities. It's about managing your energy so you can put it in the places that actually matter. That is the important piece.
Mhm.
And at work, we only have so much bandwidth, and we've all been practicing our boundaries with work, so we're only putting in what we need to put in at work, so we have energy outside of work to do other things and live our life outside of, this capitalist slog. And so it really isn't about phoning it in and trying to slack and get away with whatever you can. And I think for most of us, we just are actually incapable of doing that. But I don't want that to be the takeaway where it's like, well, Jency and Kara told me not to give a shit and just phone it in every day. Like, that is, I mean, there are going to be days
I
where you
mean,
do
I'll
give
be
a.
the scapegoat for you if that's what you need. I will do that for you. But no, absolutely. And I mean, that's why I was saying at the top of the episode is finding that balance between caring a whole lot, tying all of my worth to the outcomes, all of those things, and the other opposite end of the spectrum where it's like, oh, well, now I can't even do my job because I don't care about it. Like there is, it doesn't have to be those two extremes. It can be, you can care a lot, but just care about these things. Change where you put the goalpost for yourself and what counts as successful for you. Change what is draining your energy. Find those places. We talk about role clarity and where your pie chart is about time. Take the same pie chart and apply it to your energy. Is like 50% of your time should be doing project work. Great. 50% of your energy should be investing in project. Try to match the energy to the control rather than
Yeah.
what
And
happens.
give yourself a break. I think that's the other
Give
thing, is
yourself
like,
a
we
break.
get so tied up in these outcomes and what we think should happen, and it just, boy, you sure can get spun up. I was telling you the other day, I was remembering, it was during COVID, and I don't even remember what happened. I was working for a PR agency at the time, and something happened with one of our clients, and it was an emergency. And I was on the phone like at 10 o'clock at night trying to manage some star emergency, whatever it was. See, it doesn't matter. That was over 5 years ago. I don't even remember what it was. So at the time, I wish I could go back and tell myself, this isn't going to matter, because I was like, I was losing sleep over it, right? The anxiety was so high. And it's just like, now I don't even remember. I have no idea. I have no idea what
I
it was.
I have a lot of those where I'm like, remember the stress. I remember the like, but I couldn't tell you what it was about. Like, I don't remember what it was actually about.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. And then I think that's the thing we're after here, is it's not the actual outcome of the thing that causes the most of the issue or the emotion or the stress. It's the lead up to that. And if we can avoid that, that's good. We can live a more regulated life.
We can, and we can take that energy and channel it into outcomes we can control and improve those and the relationships and stuff we value outside of work. So, yeah. Yeah.
I think that was
So there
it.
you
I think
go.
we've gone
That's
through
it.
it.
That's all I have. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So focus on what you can control, measure it if it's going to matter in 5 years, and invest your energy accordingly.
Mm,
Okay. Well,
go
we'll
touch
see you
grass.
guys. Yeah. Go touch grass. We'll see you next time.